Are you ready to take control of your health and empower your immune system? Introducing Immunity Empowerment, a comprehensive guide to understanding and enhancing your immune system. For those looking for a holistic method to boost the immune system, Immunity Empowerment is the book for you. Empower your immune system today. Get your copy of Immunity Empowerment and start your journey to better health. Available now, get the softback at Amazon or the ebook with hot links to references and resources at Amazon, Gumroad, and Patreon.
You want me to go ahead and start, Steve?
Yes, sir. You're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, today we're going to start off talking on the show about the Houthis and the problem that the United States having with them. First, I'd like to explain a little bit about them. If you don't mind, Steve, go ahead and put the first photo up. Okay, this is the country of Yemen that you're looking at. You can see the area of territory that the Houthis control, which that territory controls 80% of the population of Yemen. The Southern Transitional Council in the lower part is actually controlled by Al Qaeda. And then you have the rest of the country, which is Republic of Yemen. Now, from the topographical map here, you can see that Yemen is a lot of hills and mountains. It does produce oil and a few other products, but it's a very mountainous territory. And like I said, the majority of the population lives in the area that's controlled by the Houthis. In fact, the capital of the country, Sana'a, is inside that territory. Okay. Now, going back to the start of the Houthis, when they first started off, they were similar to the movement here in the United States that was called the Boy Scouts of America. The Houthis was a group that was from the Houthi tribe, and there was a particular leader whose last name was Houthi that led them. They originally set themselves up to provide summer camps for their youth. They would take them and they would teach them survival techniques and how to try to be able to count on themselves and survive. Uh, Yemen has been a warring country. Their one president, who was more of a tyrant, he brought all wealth to himself. 80% of the population of Yemen lives below the poverty line. Not 20%, 80%. And the ruling elite, which consists of about 20% of their population, including the president, lives above the poverty line, but everybody else lives well below the poverty line. I mean, they're at rock bottom. You can't get any worse. The Houthis started off, like I said, providing summer camps for their youth. Later, they evolved into a defensive militia that defended their villages against the soldiers of the president. Now, the Houthi themselves are Islamic in nature. They believe in the old way of worshiping. They didn't want to accept these new modern methods that this president was trying to bring forward. Them and a bunch of the other tribes were almost wanting to be independent, but the Houthi power system started growing And while the world's eyes was elsewhere, they wasn't paying attention to them. Like I said, they went from being almost a summer camp for the youth to a militia group. Then it became a militia group for multiple villages. Then they started capturing territory. In 2016, the Yemen president, no, 2015, September, the Yemen president asked for intervention from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia brought a coalition of Arab nations in, and they tried to attack the Houthis. Now, during that fight, the coalition was starting to win at first, and the Houthis began to learn hard lessons. They were capturing a lot of weapons. They were self-supplying themselves. Nobody was giving them weapons at that time. And they were fighting a delaying action. And they got so good at it that later they rewrote the book on mountain fighting. In fact, they drove the Saudis out and pushed into Saudi Arabia itself and captured 2 Saudi towns. Then the king or prince of Saudi Arabia, he got so upset that he tried to push them back out. Eventually, he got them out of his country. But when the Saudis went after him, they also employed people from that were American mercenaries under a group called Blackwater, and they had several other Arab countries that were sending troops to help, and they barely pushed them back across the border. But the Saudis went totally unnoticed. I mean, the Houthis went totally unnoticed for years because everybody was always looking at the hot spots. Like right now in the news, you might hear of 3 current hot spots in the world when there's actually 80. So as the Houthis continued to grow and they began to learn asymmetric warfare and area control warfare, like I said, they end up rewriting the book on how to do those things because they got very good at it. Now, while they were growing, the Hezbollah had their eyes on them, met with them, and started training them. And because of Hezbollah training them, that's what brought the eye of Iran onto them. So Iran at that point started supplying them because you have to keep in mind, like I said, Yemen is the second poorest country in the Middle East. 80% of the Yemen people live below the poverty line. Okay. And I'm going to show you the reason why they were of interest to Iran. Steve, go ahead and go to the second picture that I sent you. Okay. You can, yes. I need you to put that picture up, Steve. Okay. You can see where the Houthis are located. They're located right below on the bottom edge of the Red Sea. Then if you look where Iran is, and you see where that pointed part sticks up from the United Arab Emirates, that's the Strait of Hormuz. With the Houthis being in the spot that they're in, they can control all shipping coming up and down the Red Sea. Where Iran is, they can control everything coming through the Strait of Hormuz. So those 2 countries hold a strategic position. Now, the Houthis themselves, the Red Sea, where they're at, accounts for 12% of the global trade for the whole world that comes through there. Since the Houthis been attacking shipping in the area, and they've attacked 180 ships since 2022, shipping has had to reroute itself. Okay, Steve, go to the third thing. But shipping has had to reroute itself. They've reduced shipping in the Red Sea area by 72%. I need that third picture up, Steve. Okay, as you can see, they've reduced shipping. The normal shipping route that would come around Asia, go past India, then would come up and through the Red Sea and go through the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean, and it would come around to Europe or the United States. With the Houthis stopping the shipping that's going back and forth in the Red Sea, those ships that had to reroute themselves and sail down all the way around the tip of Africa at the bottom end going south, which has very bad weather in that area most of the time. It goes around South Africa, sails up around Africa. You're talking much higher fuel costs for a ship to make that journey. You're adding months to the shipping. So it takes a lot longer to get there. And then you're causing higher prices because of it, the extended journey and stuff. And then also the insurance costs for the ships trying to sail the Red Sea has shot through the roof. It's ridiculous what they have to pay if they're talking about going through the Red Sea. Now, the Houthis were using missiles and sea drones, and they was doing pirating action, seizing some ships. I believe they seized a few ships. They sank at least two, and they fired on a total of 180. Now, the end game that the Houthis had hoped to achieve was they wanted to choke off supplies to Israel, both humanitarian as well as military supplies, and force Israel into a peace talks with Hamas. Now, the Houthis have been fighting a war for at least 2 decades against their president, which is still an ongoing war, and they fought against Saudi Arabia and the Arab coalition. This has left them destitute. I mean, a lot of them don't have power. They're at rock bottom. Like I said, 80% of their population lives below poverty. They've got close to 17 million that are on the edge of starvation and famine. So their people know nothing but struggle. They've dug tunnels everywhere, trenches everywhere. They've built tunnels underground that leads to warehouses that are underground where they hide their weapons. They've become experts at I almost call it ninjutsu, because the ninja would put on the civilian clothes during the daytime and blend in with the population. At night, he'd put on the uniform of the assassin, go out and do what he'd have to do. Then he'd come back, change clothes, and blend back in with the population. Not everyone in the Houthi territory is in agreement with what they're doing, but these guys know how to fight, and knowing how small an area they control, they took on a united Arab coalition and pushed them out of their area. The leader of Lebanon, not Lebanon, but Yemen, has not been able to move those people. In fact, they continue to gain territory. So, and they just recently, I think in the last 3 years, took over an area that was rich in oil. So now they will have money to pay for some of these weapons that's being afforded to them by Iran and Russia. Now, Iran is openly denying that they supply the Houthis with anything. Russia admits that they're backing them. And right now, the Houthis are using sea drones and missiles. They're attacking U.S. shipping, and U.S. is in the process of striking them back. In fact, in the last 72 hours, they had 4 strikes against military ships in the area, including the U.S. carrier task force, Harry S. Truman. They claim to have hit the carrier, where the carrier is claiming that no damage was done to their ships in the task force, which right now you don't know who's telling the truth. But there was an Iranian spy ship that is believed to be on the ocean floor right now that was out there, because The Houthis have sophisticated radar to guide their missiles to the ships, but what they don't know is out there in the ocean, is the ship friend or foe? So the Iranian spy ship is out there. If the ship is friendly to the United States or Israel, they're firing on it or trying to take it over. If it's friendly to the Arab nations, then they're letting the thing go on through the Suez Canal. Uh, Again, not knowing what's out there, they have to have a spy ship, which is being provided by Iran to distinguish, look at the name of the freighters, look at the ships, and be able to say in real time if they're U.S. and Israel allies or not. And then once they find that out, the Houthis can direct their attack on whoever is out there. Okay, you can take the picture down, Steve. So right now it's rumored that that one Iranian spy ship is sitting on the ocean floor, but there's a few more that's out there. Again, Iran is denying that they're supplying them. And here recently, Trump has told Iran that if the shooting continues, that they're going to go in there and hold Iran responsible because of the type of weapons that the Houthis are using. Um, Now, the Saudis, when they was fighting them, the Houthis used missiles to launch at the Saudi oil fields, which Saudi Arabia couldn't afford that. So that's another reason why they hurried up and got out of that fight. Um, but right now, the Houthis are directly challenging the United States, which is a superpower. They're challenging and firing on Israel because of the Islamic faith that the Hamas has. They consider themselves be protecting their brothers, but they're saying that the United States is committing aggression to them. But they've been firing on the U.S. ships 180 times. So we're now starting to respond. Now under Biden, when we attacked them, we attacked empty warehouses that was no big deal. But Trump is actually going after their depots, their boats, anything that gives them the ability to wage war, even their radar stations. They're just blowing them right off the map. Um, let's see. I'm going to say that's about what I have to say on that. Oh, uh, yeah, they've been hitting commercial shipping as well as military shipping. We hit recently, we even attacked their capital in Yemen, which is Sanaa. We used U.S. airstrikes. We hit radar stations. We hit their air defenses, and we hit missile and drone systems that were out in the open on the ground. Their air defenses, we took them down so that our B-2 bombers could persecute the area and come in and drop bombs at will. So they don't have any air defense left to be able to protect themselves unless Iran has shipped something in there to them here recently. But the Houthis, in their spot that they're in, can control the Red Sea shipping. And then if we get into it with Iran is definitely going to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. And that's going to choke all shipping coming from the Middle East. Now, what does that mean to the United States? It means a significant drop in the stock market. Stock market has not favored this, just what little bit of shooting has occurred, and it would be a significant drop. You will see a significant increase in the cost of oil trying to come from that area, and there will be shortages. I mean, we will be forced to open up our U.S. oil reserve to try to compensate for the lack of oil that we will get from that region, with the Houthis controlling the Red Sea and Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz. You're going to see shortages in certain commercial goods as well over here. So again, I'm telling people, if you want to have it, you better be prepping it now. You better be going out and acquiring things before the fighting starts. Right now, we have 3 carrier groups that are going to that area. Once those carrier groups arrive, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some action taken against Iran. Now, Iran says that they're not worried. Russia's in a protection agreement with them. But one thing is for sure, war is coming. Right now, the Middle East is sitting on a total powder keg. You have HTS, which controls Syria. They're having a shooting battle right now with Hezbollah of Lebanon. You've got Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad of Iraq firing on Israel. You have Hezbollah of Lebanon firing on Israel. You have Egypt, Turkey, and Iran talking about if Israel continues or goes in and starts fighting Hamas again, that those 3 countries are going to engage Israel. I mean, it's a virtual hodgepodge of battles and shootings that are going back and forth. I mean, Hezbollah violated the ceasefire agreement and started firing at Israel. We've got 3 carrier groups going to the area, but also Russia and China has warships headed to that area as well. So it's a real powder keg getting ready to possibly explode there. And American people need to understand that a significant increase in goods and shortages are going to occur once open warfare starts to take place. So with that, Steve, I'll stop right there unless you want to come in with something on that.
I'll bring myself and Brother Sanford on in. Greetings, Brother Sanford.
How you brothers doing this evening?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah. So I just, I didn't have anything really prepared or ready to present, but I did want to say that, at this point in time, I think that things are going to only get worse as far as, when we're looking at the global conflict that's occurring. I think that it was General Wesley Clark who talked about, I think it was 5 nations that were on a hit list. And Iran was on that list. And I think Iran is the last one to be gone after. And so I think that they have intentions on going after Iran. And this would be devastating to the economy, which is right now at a point where we owe more than we bring in, and so to go to war at this point in time would be some would see it as for the military, of course, that would siphon in a lot of money. But then it was siphoning away from what is already being taken away from I guess the social welfare programs that are used to help and support the average people. So yeah, I think it's going to get pretty bad. Not only as far as war is concerned, but I think also as far as civil unrest is concerned. And the Tesla vehicles being set ablaze and shot at and so forth. So yeah, that I just wanted to throw that in there.
Let me ask you this, Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Because we know we have to get ready at this lowest level. But what do you think would be a strategic plan for people who live in these localized neighborhoods where, say, if they see somebody who they don't know what nationality they are, and maybe they own the stores in the neighborhood, or maybe they own the car lots in the neighborhood, or the small businesses in their community. What do you think should be a response of people in those communities? Because one of the things that I find when I talk to people is that because, and you know how they always say all black people look alike. You know, we heard that all the time. All black people look alike. Well, you know, brown people look alike too. And I'll use my chemist for example. You know, you know Demi. Demi's from Sri Lanka, but
Mm-hmm.
you see Demi, you think Demi is Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's not Indian. So for somebody who can't tell somebody who's from Iran, who's from Morocco, who's from India, who's from Pakistan, you know, what do you think is a way for people in the local communities who may have a concern about what what kind of foundation may be arising in their communities that could play on one side or the other for them? How do you think people should approach that? What do you think would be a good way to bring forth that even conversation, if it's going to be a conversation or a
Well,
mindset?
I'd say I'm not for people attacking people. Like you hear about these people attacking Tesla dealerships and stuff. Elon Musk ain't getting the money from that dealership. Those cars are already paid for. The dealership owns them. You're attacking your local business people for a product that they're selling and they're innocent. I mean, if someone most of the drive-throughs in my area are owned by foreigners, uh, I would hate to see them be attacked or their families or children be attacked at schools just because of the way they look. I'm not down for that type of activity. And they're innocent. They have nothing to do with what's going on in the situation. And I hate to hear when people attack people because of that or because of a product that they sell. I mean, a lot of my products, when you read on, says made in China, but I'm an American worker. I'm at the gun and knife shows selling products, and people come up and look to try to see country of origin. And they're like, I'm not supporting China, so I'm not going to buy your product. Okay, I hear what you're saying. And I explained to them, I'm an American worker. Whoever imported that into this country has already paid China for that item. Then that item went to wholesalers, and then it was purchased by retailers such as myself to resell. You could hate China all you want, but by denying giving purchasing from me, you're taking away my ability to earn money. I'm an American worker. I'm trying to earn an honest living here inside this country, and I have to pay the price for your belief when China already got paid before the merchandise even came into the country. So no, I'm not down at all for anyone that would come down on some of these foreigners. They're trying to earn a living. They found a way to do it, and I support their efforts. But to come down on them when they're totally innocent, no, I just don't agree with that. I mean, how do you feel, Sanford?
Well, I agree with you. I think the problem is that you can't tell, and
Hmm.
you never know who believes what. This is why I asked what you thought about conversations with those with people who may come from a different region of the world. Sometimes I think just general conversation to get to know the people around you. But I had somebody bring up something to me about 4 days ago, and you're talking about things going on now in the Middle East, and it was a valid question. I had somebody say, "Sandman, you remember when we had the tornadoes here, and all the
Yeah.
guys on those stores took what was a 6 pack of water that used to cost $2.99, and was a shortage of water. They raised the price in 19.99 and 12.99, and that's factual. I know that happened for a fact in certain places, and you know my whole thing was my response was this. Well, you know, when you find out what somebody is and who they are, you believe it, and then you quit dealing with that particular individual. So I think it has to be on an individual basis because you never know. You never know what somebody's underlying thing is. I mean, I've never seen some of the hate I see from my own country like I've seen now. I mean, this some of the stuff I used to listen to my uncles and them talk about coming back from Vietnam and how they were treated by some of the people. and some of the things I see, especially what I consider younger people now who haven't sacrificed anything, um, what appears to be a dislike for their own country. So I think it's up in the air. I agree with you. I don't think you mistreat anybody based on just what they look like. And like you said, they're working hard too. And if they took advantage of an opportunity, God bless them. You know what I mean? I believe in that. I'm all about America, so I believe if there's a lot of things available to you, it's your opportunity to take advantage of it because it's before you. But I had that conversation a few days ago. That's why I was wondering what you thought. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. But when somebody brought up the things that happened during the tornado that hit us bad, and how I know that was true, my next door neighbor was a news personality, and when I found out about one of the stores that did that, I contacted her, and her news station went to that store that same day. Now the people who own that store, which is on the west side of Dayton, when the news came there, they immediately tried to change the prices. But I know that happened factually. So I had somebody bring that up to me. So I just wondered what you thought. But as I told them, I think, when you find out somebody's a certain way and it's not what you approve of or what you agree with, then you just don't be bothered with that particular person, you know. But I think you can't judge everybody by what one or two people have done. And I agree with you, man. If you work hard and we can't help where the stuff come from. You know what I mean? We can't help it. But yeah, I'm the exact same way. You work hard, you try to do what you can do, and you try to better yourself, and you try to inform the community. But I was just curious of what you thought about that because I know that's something I hear more and more people talk about.
Well, I'm gonna add to what you just said. There's a couple things in business. One, you're allowed to charge whatever the market will bear, and you don't want to charge too much because no one's going to shop with you. You got to look at what the average price is, and that's what you go with. But also, you're going by law of supply and demand. If supply is up, you have to come in with low prices. If the supply is down and you got more purchasers, now you can adjust your price based upon how scarce it is. And prices always go up in times of disaster or economic turmoils or whatever. That's common. But there's also a thing out there, let the buyer beware. A buyer has the power to support that business or not support that business. If they don't like the price, they can take their money and they can go elsewhere. That's what's allowed. I mean, there was one hurricane, I can't think of the name of it, that hit Florida one year, and they were charging 40, somewhere between 42 and $48 for a case of water. So the government took them to court, and it was Walmart. They took Walmart to court. Walmart won the case because they showed clearly that if you go to, in their area of Florida, if you go to any sporting events, if you go to any of the carnivals, the fairs, any activities, a bottled water was selling between $3 and $6 each. So seeing that there was no supplies coming in because the roads were blocked and water was scarce, they was allowed to raise the price. That $42 for the case was representing what they was charging per bottle of water. Now, if you wanted to buy a whole case, you could, but they was charging basically $3 a bottle for the water that was in the case. And when that came out in court, the court had to rule in Walmart's favor. So Walmart actually beat the government who tried to charge them with overpricing stuff on people. But I mean, you got three basic rules that I just cited in about business, and the bottom line is the purchaser, the buyer has the final say if they're willing to pay that price or not. And for the ease of convenience, I mean, you can go 3 counties over that wasn't affected and go. You might have to drive 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours to get to a location to buy it at the old price. But after you pay all the gas and all your time, was it worth it to you? And for the ease of convenience, a lot of people will go ahead and pay the price rather than take that journey or go to the next state to find a cheaper rates. Heck, the motels were charging triple rates. So And again, you could have went to the next state over and got a decent rate. But in times of peril, in times of shortages, uh, prices are going to spike. That's just, people should be aware of it. Now, or should you go in and burn down the store because you don't like what they're charging? No, that's wrong. But it's what stupid. I'm calling stupid people. It's what stupid people will do that don't think. They want to go with mob mentality, and mob mentality can get you hurt in this day and time because there's people out there loaded for bear, and they're not going to tolerate you coming in taking their stuff.
Mhm.
But I'll stop there for right now in case Steve want to interject anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to just talk about the the first law of nature, which is to survive. So, if times get bad, I definitely agree with what you all are saying. I'm thinking now of, when everything hits the fan and it gets really bad. You know what I mean? We're talking about weeks later after everything's pretty much collapsed. And so now you're going to be dealing with the situation where the law of survival starts to take effect, and when we see that coming, then we're going to really see some issues where once again, these programs that we've been talking about, shelter in place, and you know um, preparing your home to be a sanctuary to where you can stay inside, because I think that, if things get bad, you definitely don't want to be out in the street, looking for food, looking for water, looking for anything. You want to have as much as possible, all your necessities inside your home for at least 3 weeks to at least 3 months. And that would be, preferable to have that amount of supplies. Yeah, so I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, because right now you look at the way things are shipping up around the world. A lot of world economies are on the verge of collapse,
Hmm.
and U.S. dollar is long in the tooth. The average fiat currency only lasts 95 years. We're at 107 with this currency. The Federal Reserve is already ready to bring in the central bank digital currencies, which will be the new currency that technically we don't want to see that happen. But the dollar has to collapse first in order for that to happen. People have to suffer for a period of time so that they will accept this new currency. Then you go along with the fact that France this week is issuing a survival manual to all of their households. And the
Mm.
manual is based upon two things: surviving nuclear war in case of nuclear war attack, and two, in case France gets invaded. Now, historically, France is one of the most invaded countries in the world. So I can understand them having that second chapter in there because the army isn't that strong. And even right now, Great Britain isn't that strong. Great Britain's force, I think, numbers 70 or 80,000. We got football stadiums that can hold that many people. So, and that's all you got. So everyone's dependent upon the United States. But here's the scenario: if we get tied up in a war in the Middle East and we have to hold forces back, our main forces have to be held back to deal with China. China's got that new fighter plane called the Dragon that's out now. Yeah, we got the new Raider bomber that's being manufactured. We got the new F-45 Condor, which is a seventh generation. We're skipping sixth generation. We're going to seventh generation. It surrounds its body with an electromagnetic field that gives itself stealth capability in the air. Uh, when it comes down to when does China want to fight us, when we get these new weapons coming out, or would they rather fight us now? And the answer is going to be now. So somewhere between now and 2027, we're going to probably rock and roll with China. And when we do that, we're not going to have the forces available to contend with Russia and Europe. Europe is going to have to stand on its own for a period of time with the current military that we have over there. There won't be no help coming. So right now, Europe is gearing up for war against Russia, and the Russians can see it. And the Russians are going to have to make a decision. Do we wait until they're ready for us, or do we take them on now while they're weak and let China and Iran tie the United States up? And that don't count what could happen with North Korea, because when Korea sees that we're tied down and bogged down, then I'm sure they're going to act up. And then any other members of the BRIC alliance could start to act up. I mean, look at India right now. India and Turkey's a part of NATO, but Turkey is definitely siding with the Russians and the Chinese. And here recently, India is showing signs of leaning more toward Russia and China because they're part of the BRIC alliance.
Mm.
Where do all the pharmaceuticals come from? 80% of them come from China, 20% of them come from India. That would spell death for many Americans over here, possibly myself, that lives on pharmaceuticals. Where will we get our pharmaceuticals from? We don't make them here no more. Can they convert some of these factories, and will they have the herbs and resources to be able to create what we need? I mean, I'm having to look into alternative herbs, herbal treatments and stuff right now for the diabetes that I have that could substitute for metformin or insulin. And there's other people that have, there's at least 40 million Americans in the United States that take drugs to help them be able to control their mind. And if they couldn't get those drugs and they lost control of their minds, how safe would it be on the American streets?
Right.
People need to take that in consideration. I mean, we're at the edge of something going down right now in people's minds, and they think, and the problem that I find with a lot of people is they think they got plenty of time to get ready. Well, I don't have to worry about it right now. There'll be plenty of time for all that later. No, we're on a clock. The clock is ticking down. Where you used to think that prepping was something that was an elective choice by you, right now it should be a mandatory choice by you. You should be doing this. There's no more choices. We're headed towards something. You should feel it in your spirit. You should see it happening in the news, a constant and clear escalation. And there's an old saying, or well, I'm gonna go and say this: the normal progression is a currency war, and currency wars lead to trade wars. Trade wars lead to real wars. We've had the currency war. BRIC Alliance is trying to topple the U.S. dollar. We're still holding on, but barely. Now we're getting ready to start the trade wars, and when the products stop flowing, troops start moving. So I don't care which way you look at this, it's all coming back to the same thing, that war is in the future.
Right.
And prepping should be mandatory for you right now, knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
anyone out there they can argue whatever issue that they want, but they're not living in the reality of the situation. And time is not something that is infinite for you anymore. We're on a clicking down clock, and when time runs out, your time to prepare has ended. So if you want to try to thrive through a situation, start acquiring things now. If you want to deal with struggle worse than what you're dealing with now, and it's going to be on an unimaginable level, because a lot of things you're not going to be able to get. My dad told me, my mom both told me during the Great Depression, they were issued ration cards per family. You were allowed 5 pounds of sugar a month. Now, you could have had money to buy 20 pounds of sugar. It didn't matter. You were only allowed to have what was on the ration cards. Military, once war breaks out, military gets first pick of everything. We're going to get seconds, and seconds are going to be scarce. And then with shipments of stuff not coming from around the world, if we can't get these factories in the United States up moving quick enough, and some of the new ones that's supposed to be building products like computer chips and stuff, we can't get them going. Uh, we're going to live in a sad state of affairs for a period of time. And then you still have to deal with the cyber attacks, the EMPs that can bring the power grid down. we're faced with almost impossible times ahead if you have not prepared. So I'm gonna stop there, Steve.
Yeah, I think you done touched on so much. So I mean, it's all, it's all real and it's all happening in real time. And one of the things that, like you were saying about the mental, everyone's mental stability, everybody right now is on edge, except for those who are, have their heads maybe in some type of sport and play, who are totally unaware, and there are people like that. They are like
Yeah,
totally unaware of the peril in which we're living in right now. But like you're saying, a lot of people are, super stressed out. We have a number of people who have become unemployed. And man, so I think one of the things to also look at, just going off of what you're saying, is that, a lot of this external war, but there's a lot of internal strife in a lot of these countries as well. And I'm talking not necessarily about the Middle Eastern country. I'm talking about America and Europe. There's a lot of tension, especially within Germany. I think Germany is a powder keg that can blow almost at any time because of that divide between the West and the East, and the inequality that a lot of the Germans are feeling. You have in a lot of these European nations the rise of the right wing and the neo Nazis, and yeah, right here in America as well. And then, as you're talking about with the rise of that, you have the immigrant populations, both in the United States and in Europe, who are feeling a certain type of way because of now these anti-immigration policies. So, yeah, I mean, I think that when you look down the road, I don't think that there's any road that you can go on that spells safety. All roads lead to strife. And so I think, once again, like you said, until, things get better, it's best for those who are listening to the program to begin to prepare. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a link to some disaster preparedness products that people can look at, but definitely look at food, water, and like you keep on showing, and in the news we keep seeing them talking more and more about gold. That's amazing. They're talking every day. Gold is going up, 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 and like you said, that right there is an indication that things are about to get rough as well when you see the price of gold going up like that. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
As bad as it is, I think the one thing we can't underestimate about our country is this, though. Everything our country is going through, all the other countries are going through also.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at internal resources, we might be a little better off than the majority of the countries.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think, just to chime in on what you said, not to interrupt, but to chime in, I think that what Aaron was saying is something that we really have to look into, though, and that is that a lot of what Americans look to survive on is coming from outside of the country. I mean, there are definitely, definitely things that are internal, but there's a lot that America has. What is that saying? That America has. I can't think of the word right now, but depends on other countries to produce and provide us those type of goods. Where we used to be a producer nation, now we're just a consumer nation. And so I think that that's going to put us in if shit hits the fan, that's going to really cause a lot of issues within the country. One more thing too is that America has for a long time neglected its infrastructure. I mean, the infrastructure is so bad, it just doesn't even make sense. So I think that a lot of these factors are going to cause a lot of strife. where people are going to just, I don't know, rebel or riot or whatever we want to call it, so yeah, it just doesn't look good to me at all. It just doesn't look good at all, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I think we should just prepare the best way we can. And let me go ahead and put that link, and I'll let you all say some more. Let's see here. A lot too. And I know this is kind of not getting off the subject, but a lot of what's going on as well is we're looking at a lot of diseases that are outbreaking with the smallpox and the bird flu, and a number of these type of things that are also taking place at the same time. So you got the diseases, you got the extreme weather, and you got the factor of war. And I think that, yeah, it's time to definitely prepare. So let me get this in here. Here we go. And let me see here. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna go ahead and show you all just this store that people can go to. I'm gonna put it on screen real quick. Hold on, it's coming up. And here we go. So it's got about 225 items in it. Let me go ahead and put it on the screen. Where people can go ahead and begin to buy some of these items to, when you want computers to move fast, that's when they move slow. I think computers do that just to show you up. So let me go ahead and, okay, here we go. And then let's go and look at some of these items. Here we go. All right. So as we talk about, the bug out bags, we definitely have, some bug out bags, and we'll be putting some of these items together for people who are looking to, have a bug out bag just in case they got to get out of town, get out of Dodge, as they say. But some communication devices, these are just things that people should really consider having in their home. You have these grizzly gear emergency food. I know that probably Brother Aaron is familiar on what type of survival foods that we should get and which ones we should stay away from because of probably the taste. But life straws to purify water, just in case you have some issues finding water. And so those of us who are blessed to live around maybe lakes or things like that, we can go down and get some of that water, but we definitely need to know how to purify it. And of course the vitamins, because we just definitely gotta stay strong. So I just wanted to show some of these things that people can go, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the link. Hold on. I think I accidentally took us off of here. Okay, there we go. I don't know what happened there. Okay. But yeah, if you all want to say anything else, or we can go ahead and begin to close it on out.
But the one thing.
Oh, go ahead, Sam. You
I was going to say
one
thing. We haven't talked about too much, but I know Aaron and myself. I don't know about you, Brother Steve, but I've been talking to people about dual powered generators. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. but you can find some that can run a couple of appliances at a time if you can't afford one that can run several things. I know right now, if you go to Amazon, they got a couple of them on sale that are dual fuel, that run off propane and gasoline, that you can buy for under $500. So some functions better than none. So I would encourage people to get yourself a generator or two if you could. That's dual fuel, so one's by gas and propane. That would be a good idea. I know we haven't talked about that too much because there's some you can buy that are a little more expensive, but I'm thinking about maybe the average person, or might be able to get together with your neighbor and you guys can come in together in case something happens and you learn how to bring your resources together and say, look, we're going to get this generator. And if this happens, this is how we can fuel this and start buying your propane now, you know. Um, I just wanted to bring it up because I was thinking about that earlier. Some of the things that, we talk about, the food and some of the emergency supplies, the notification items and stuff like that. And water, of course, those are essentials. You have to have those.
Yeah.
But, if you can make it more like home and have some lights on, that sure would help. You know what I mean? Right. If you can keep your refrigerator running for a few hours and plug that stove in to cook and get the refrigerator back going again, even if you had to go back and forth,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so I would suggest everybody start looking at generators, and you can start saving for these things now. And in 90 days, you have yourself a generator or two, you know. That's all I wanted to say. I've been thinking about that while we're talking about, stuff we get to prepare. And not too many times we mentioned generators. We talked about, the Mr. Buddy heater and stuff when it was colder. So the flip side, is that generator.
Yes.
And then I'd like to go back to what I was saying about the manual that France is putting out. Sweden is reissuing their manual to their people. And it's either Estonia, Lithuania is putting one out. Switzerland already has one out. I think Great Britain is encouraging their people to prepare. Germany is definitely telling their people to prepare for World War III. Everyone is saying something except for the government of the United States. We're not being warned to do any prepping whatsoever. China and Russia is dominating the world on the amount of grain and gold and food and different things that they're stockpiling back. And I want people to understand when you put that manual out for your people, like France putting one out for their people, there has to be I can't think of the word I want to use, but everyone has to be in agreement to do this. Everyone who has viewed the threat feels the threat is credible enough that this is necessary at this time. That means the president of France would have to have seen it, their parliament or whatever government, their military would have to have seen it, their intelligence community would have seen the threat, your public service announcement people would have seen the threat. This branches off into many different aspects, and everybody's coming back with the same decision at the end after seeing whatever the credible threat is. We need this manual for our people. This isn't something that one person says, or say if Trump was to say, well, we're going to put out a manual for all the American people. One person can't make that call. The intelligence community, the military, there's a lot of people that's involved in that, and everybody has to come out with the same end result at the end. Yes, this manual is necessary. France right now is declaring that they want the majority of their men folk to start taking military training. Estonia is wanting all their men folk to start taking military training. Switzerland, military training is mandatory with their men because their whole thing, and they've been neutral on a lot of wars, their whole thing that when they get invaded, they're going to fight a guerrilla campaign. They realize they don't have the forces to be able to stop anybody, but they got those massive mountains and stuff and snowfall that makes it difficult for someone to come in there and sweep over them. But they've got weapons and depots buried around their country, and only those militia groups from each town knows where those weapons are, and they can get to them, arm themselves, and they're trained in how to work together to fight against an invading army. Uh, Everyone is getting ready for a fight, so this threat has to be real. Now, personally, I feel that the Soviets have burned up a lot of their armor in Ukraine, especially a lot of their obsolete armor. But the T-80s, T-90s, and the new T-14s, which T-14 is considered number one tank in the world, those have not seen action in Ukraine. So those tanks are still available. Are they in the numbers sufficient for Soviet Union to come with steel wave across Europe? I don't know. I don't know what they have in their reserves. They're kind of quiet on what they have, where the United States brags about what we have. But Europe is going to have to stand on its own 2 feet. And some of the European countries are issuing manuals. And I mean, you would have to have a total consensus across the board of many minds coming together to say, yes, we need this in order for them to spend that money and put that out there. So for France to be doing it, and they're preparing for nuclear war or invasion of their country, whatever threat that they saw and have studied, they feel is viable, and this is what they need to prepare for. So I'm a start.
Well, you know what? You know what I believe though, and it may be different than what you guys believe. I, I know one thing during a conflict or war period, we and people don't want to talk about this, but we have um, a phrase we use called acceptable loss. And I know that the United States is prepared for an acceptable loss, and that can be up to 33 and a third percent of the people. And one of the things that I think, and and another thing I really believe is this too. See, we all every country has nuclear capabilities. We know it has enough to destroy everybody. Every country that has them has enough to destroy everybody. So I believe that this country, we are willing to go to any necessary means not to take the L that way. I also believe, though, an acceptable loss is always on the plate for this country. So when you mention those other countries, Aaron, the one thing I thought about, and I saw that thing where Europe was doing that, where they were like, telling people to get military trained, like the men and stuff. And I saw that a couple of weeks ago, and I laughed inside because a lot of these countries, not all, but a lot of these countries have a limited means for the people to be able to protect themselves. Period, though.
True.
Right. And so, with that being said, I really do believe that I don't know if they even mean what they say when they try to prepare for that. I think they already know that they SOL. I think some of these countries they're saying get trained and prepare now. It's kind of like Ukraine at the last minute. All of a sudden, gonna make all the men stay and learn how to shoot a gun. You know what I mean? And for real, it was damn near an act that didn't hold any weight because they were going to be fighting against people who were trained, who were coming into their country. Now I believe you fight to your last breath. So, I understand the whole theory. Now, I'm not discrediting that. I agree with it 100%. But I believe here in America, I think if you bring something to this soil, if you want to take it over, it's got to be so devastating, nobody's going to be able to live here. Or nothing's going to be able to, because after the acceptable loss, and that's those people who are blind, those people who are in denial, that's the acceptable loss to the government. And that's just the reality. The weak shall perish. And that's the reality. I'm telling you now. I don't care about no emotions, no nothing. The acceptable loss are those who are not getting ready. And they're going to say, well, the government's mind is, well, you should have been ready. Because one thing about this country, you got the capabilities of arming yourself. One thing about this country, you got the capabilities of going out right now, how we talking about buying stuff to prepare. There are places you can go just to learn how to prep. There are things you can do to get prepared. So I believe the mindset here is If you don't do it, shame on you. You're just part of the acceptable loss.
Mm.
And I really believe that. So when you mention those other countries, I agree with you. We are not saying nothing to our citizens on a regular scale. But you know what I think? The people who don't know anything about it, I think the government considers that the acceptable loss.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's going to be definitely an issue. But I wanted to say that, what you all are talking about, I think that we should all consider, and that is to get ourselves physically in some type of shape, to where if we do have to go and fight, that we're at least in a situation that we won't run out of steam within 1 to 2 minutes, and we can at least throw 1 to 2 punches to defend ourselves. So yeah, definitely.
Well, what you guys said about the mental aspect. I mean, so you think, so you shall be. The first thing Aaron mentioned about your mind, because
Right.
when I teach officers subject control, how to deal with somebody physically. The
Mhm.
one thing I always say you cannot teach is aggression.
Mm.
You can't teach aggression. I could teach you 1,000 unarmed self-defense techniques.
Mm.
But if you don't have the aggression to carry those things out in a manner to make those things work, it ain't doing you no good. So it's just like when somebody has a weapon of some kind, a defensive tool, you still have to have the aggression and the mindset and the training to compete and win, on the level you may need to. And I think the people that's not paying attention to things we're talking about, and not just our audience, but anybody, I'm really looking at it like, as a whole, this is the acceptable loss. They're just saying, okay, well, man, if you don't want to get ready, if you're not paying attention, if you haven't seen that when we had a hurricane, didn't nobody come help you? If you didn't see when we had a tornado, didn't nobody come help you? If you didn't see when the the banks, you couldn't get no money at the ATM machine and you couldn't get no gas, didn't nobody give you no gas. If you didn't see that after these things over and over again, you're part of the acceptable loss. And I really believe that. And think about it. I'm going back to what Brother Aaron said. Don't come to my house, because you know why you can't come to my house? Because you chose to be a part of the acceptable loss.
Mm. Yeah.
And I really do believe that is the mindset. So I don't think we hear things, or we don't push it out there like other countries on a large scale, because and the acceptable loss is what? They think that's the weak. That's the people they want to get rid of anyway.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's something we never talk about. And it goes back to what you talk about, the will to survive, and the strongest will survive. All those things, those sayings have a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a whole, when it comes down to it, if you've been put into that group of being the acceptable loss, that's what it's going to be.
Man. Ooh.
Yeah, because any of us to survive, we will go get what we had to go get to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's not prepared for that,
yeah.
So I think people need to look in the mirror and ask themselves, am I accepting the fact that I want to be a victim of the circumstances of what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to sound like a crude, uncaring person, but the reality is that's what it will come down to.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, not all. You know what I mean? But it's gonna come down to in a lot of cases. And so as we tell people, you better get your food, you better get your life straws, you better get your way to have fire, you better get a way to create some power in your house. Those people who don't make an effort, man, it'll come out. And unfortunately, all the nations involved, if we have a crisis or anything happens, it's worldwide, there's a certain amount of acceptable loss that they're just going to be pushed to the side.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think if you all don't have anything else, we can close it out on that thought. We don't want to be that accepted. We don't want to be in that category.
I know that's right.
We don't want to be in that category. But yeah, we'll go ahead and close it on out. And I want to thank all of you, of course, for coming on and sharing your insight. And for those who are watching the program, please tell others. We got some, like I said, we got some good things going on. We're organizing and it's getting there. Sometimes, it's hard to watch a pot start to boil. You're looking at it and you're like, when is this thing gonna start boiling? And then you look away, and the next thing you look back and it's boiling. So we got that going on. But I wanted to say thank you, and we'll just go ahead and close it on out. All right.
All right. See you next week.
Yes.
The Inescapable Famine, Anarchy, Armageddon, and Separation. Unveiling the truth about America's food crisis. Are you prepared for the looming food crisis in America? The Inescapable Famine equips individuals and communities with practical strategies for preparation and empowerment. Empowers through advocacy for community gardens and food cooperatives. It explores the biblical perspective of famine through the stories of Lazarus and the prodigal son. Get your copy today at refugedepot.com, Amazon, or Gumroad.